Welcome back to Piece of Work, the podcast. I'm Danielle Tantone, and I am a nurse, an author, a coach, a survivor, and just a human out there trying to make it through this crazy life. I have about 40, 50 minutes between two appointments, and I thought, why not record a podcast? This is actually one that I've been wanting to record for several weeks since I started back on this podcasting journey about a month ago. It's about what dating at 50 or almost 50 taught me about myself and also about modern love. I think I think that I wish I had time to organize my thoughts a little better, but I feel like that's never going to happen. So I'm just going to riff off of it. I do have a few notes, but I had some very interesting insights on this dating journey about 2 years ago, right around the time that I stopped doing this podcast regularly. I was going through a divorce and I started dating relatively quickly, as I have tended to do each time I've found myself single in my adult life. And it was very interesting to reflect on the differences of the dating apps, the dating world. I realized that I was facing this dating scene, this being single, at the end of my 40s. And the last time I had been single was the very end of my 30s. And the time before that was the very end of my 20s, which is really interesting. Just first of all, because to be at the end of each of those decades of one's life, as you can imagine, you're going through different things. In your 20s, you're still finding yourself. The things I was struggling with were very different than the things I was struggling with at the end of my 30s. And then the end of my 40s, I expected it to be not as fun, maybe, or I really, when I went through this third divorce, I frankly wasn't even thinking of dating. That wasn't the reason for the divorce. I wasn't looking for anything. And I think that's what made it particularly interesting. Is I didn't really think that I was going to be attractive anymore or that I was even looking for anything like that anymore. Just to back right up. So, again, at the end of my 20s, I'm trying to think what year it would have been. It would have been right after the millennium, like 2002 ish, before I met my second husband. I was dating a little bit frantically, almost to keep myself busy so that I didn't fall back into the relationship I had just left. And it was the beginning of online dating then. I was on Match.com. I was also on JDate, which is a Jewish dating app that existed back then. I think it might still exist or they're trying to resurrect it. But anyway, so I met a number of people and I honestly had a very positive experience even then. Lots of first dates, nothing that ended up being anything serious. But actually, funny enough, like a few people that I met via those dating apps became friends and work associates because I was in real estate back then. And there are people that I still know today. And I initially met them on a dating app. So it's interesting that I think I knew even back then that a dating app, I mean, actually, they weren't even apps back then. We didn't have apps back then. We didn't have phones that did everything that our phones do. It was Match.com was a website and you did it on your computer. We didn't have access to the internet on our phones back then, which is so wild to even imagine, but we didn't. But anyway, so back then I realized something, and that was that the cool thing about these websites or these websites that I was on was that you got to come into contact with people that you would have otherwise not met. You wouldn't have just crossed paths with them through your work and through your going to the gym, whatever you might do, going to the grocery store. It's really hard to meet people, especially if you're not going out to bars, even back then, but even more so now. So I knew back then that the app was really just, or the website back then was just an opportunity to cross paths with more people than you would have otherwise. So I used it as a tool and I was just really real on my profile. I don't remember much about the profiles, but I had a very positive experience. I met lots of people. Most of them, it wasn't a love connection. And I ended up within about a year meeting my second husband and we got married pretty quickly and stuff. So Anyway, apps are just a tool. You're not really, I don't even like the expression online dating because the key is we're not dating online. We're just meeting people online. And then the goal is to take it offline, theoretically. I think a lot of people forget that or don't think of it that way, but that should be the goal, in my opinion. Anyway, so end of my 20s, still searching for myself, still like addicted to love or addicted to that high that you get from attention and lots of first dates. And then I was only doing that for a matter of months. And then I met my ex and we got married pretty quickly. Then again, at the end of my 30s, after that divorce, it was like almost frantic in a different way. Again, I always used dating for me as what I felt and I still feel was a pretty healthy way to keep myself busy after breaking up with somebody. I guess some might argue, a lot of people feel that you shouldn't jump too quickly into dating after a relationship. But for me and for my personality, it helped to get out there and get busy in it. Not get busy. It came out wrong. Just to keep myself busy, to go out for dinners and to meet people. I wasn't necessarily looking for true love right off the bat, but it's hard when you get divorced and your social life has been all around this couple, your husband, and you're used to doing things together and you're used to having a life that's together. It's really hard because even your friends might be married and things like that. I remember it being just, something to do, something fun to do. And I've always been a social person, loved meeting people. So the second time around, also, I met lots of people, had some fun, and didn't meet the love of my life that way. But then I did connect with my third husband online as well. We were, we'd gone to high school together and we reconnected on Facebook. So it was a little different than the dating app, but we initially connected online. So online can be a good thing. It doesn't have to be, it's not always bad. Ultimately, for all the reasons that, you know, that we had, we also decided to get a divorce. And that's sad. That's not, I've talked about it before. That's not what anybody who gets married plans on. So finding myself single again at the end of my 40s after being a breast cancer survivor, I made a whole episode about dating without nipples. I literally don't even have my breasts, which is so silly on one hand. Who cares? But think about going on a date and like, when do you bring this up? So I was really focused on that in the beginning. It was a joke, but it was serious at the same time. And again, I wasn't dating to fill myself up or to find the love of my life I didn't have this pressing desire to have kids. Obviously, I've already had my 3 girls and I was pretty close to the age where I wouldn't be able to do that anymore anyway. And so it was just a different scene. So this isn't a dating advice episode, although I, of course, have lots of opinions about how to navigate dating online because I had quite a bit of success. The biggest surprise to me coming onto a dating app at the end of my 40s, I just threw up a profile, very authentic, very real, regular selfies that I just took off my phone of me hiking and doing things like that. And granted, I'll be the first to admit, I'm pretty photogenic. I actually sometimes think I look better in pictures than in real life. So I get that not everybody has, and I do take a lot of selfies because it's just, I like doing that. And I'm always promoting things. And so it's just the way I am. So I had a lot of pictures, but I I think in the profile, I just was real and I was just me. It didn't try to sound any certain way. I didn't try to look younger. I was 49, 5 feet tall, like not anyone's idea of a dreamboat, a model material. But I could not believe the amount of attention that get hundreds of likes. I had to turn off the app, put it in snooze mode after 24 hours because it was overwhelming. And I even tried to be pretty picky about who I actually matched with, but it was like, wow, okay, he's decent looking. He seems nice. And then I experienced any number of different things with that. And I thought I'd organize my thoughts before I started talking, but I'm not looking at my notes at all. So I'm rambling. But what I wanted to discuss was, first of all, I've changed, and that's a good thing. Like I said, I already had kids. I wasn't looking for someone to complete me. I wasn't looking to impress anyone. I was just looking for real mutual connection, shared values, shared energy, shared peace. And one thing I realized pretty quickly that was a total surprise was how many guys, younger guys, are interested in older women. Now, before you go and say, oh, yeah, of course, it's an age old thing, the cougar MILF thing, it wasn't just that. And yes, there's plenty of that. I am well aware. But I started asking guys that would match with me that were in their 20s or 30s, why? Why are you into older women? And some of the answers were honestly sweet and thoughtful. Like one that I got a lot was older women know what they want, they know how to communicate, they have their own life, they're not so dramatic, there's not so much drama and games. And then one guy loved this answer. He's like, and you have good snacks. I was like, we have good snacks. I love it. And it makes sense. We're used to taking care of people. We're moms. And of course, some just assumed that you were more experienced in certain areas that would be beneficial to them. But it was just really surprising how many guys really were attracted to me physically and mentally and emotionally. I didn't think that I was gonna, I was that attractive. I was old, over the hill. My whole life, you hear the stereotype of men in their 40s and 50s only liking 20-year-old women. So have almost the opposite be true was like very surprising and weird. And it was fun, frankly. So the bigger takeaway was that I wasn't invisible. And I really, in fact, felt more seen than I had in years, not because of how I looked necessarily, but because of how I carried myself. I frankly have a confidence and a nonchalance that I just didn't have when I was younger. And I think probably most women do. I think a lot of times women who find themselves single at this age are scared that they try to put themselves out there and act younger or different. They try to create a profile that they think is going to attract people, and they try to be someone that they're not. And that really doesn't make sense because the whole goal, I found out from talking to a lot of guys that a lot of women would be really filtered. They're like, I liked you because your profile was just real. And I was like, what do you mean? What, isn't everybody real? I had no idea why you would be anything other than that. But apparently a lot of women would have really highly filtered photos, and you'd meet them in person, they look nothing like their photo. And I was like, I don't even understand that. What's the point of that? How is that useful? Or they'd post a picture of them out hiking, but they actually don't like the outdoors and they don't like to get dirty or whatever. Like just basically presenting a picture that's not how they really are. And that seems so pointless to me because this isn't about just matching with the most people possible or matching with somebody who's looking for something that's totally different from what you are. This is actually about presenting who you actually are. And what's cool is that there's enough people out there that you can meet the ones that's looking for that type of person. So I think it's always makes sense, whether you're female, male, 20, 30, 40, 50, it always makes sense to be you and be honest about what you want and what you don't want and not try to be someone you're not. So my biggest advice to anybody is authenticity beats perfection every single time. So don't use overly filtered photos. Don't lie about your age or height or who you are. Don't pretend to love hiking if you don't. Don't pretend to love reading if you don't. Show photos of what you actually love doing. And yes, I think it is important for them to see your body. If somebody is only attracted to tall, skinny girls and you're short and curvy, like it doesn't even make sense for you to not show that. If you're a little chubby, if you're a little overweight, so what? There's people that like that type, that body type. Like, they're going to see you in real life. That's the goal, isn't it? You're trying to get on a date with this person. So if you look like skinnier in the pictures, that's not actually a good thing because then they're thinking that you're going to look different than you actually look. Yeah, I know we all wish we could be a few pounds skinnier, or if you're a guy, a little bit more muscular, but be real. If somebody, I think we can get caught up on like the the idea that like we don't want it to be just about physical, but the reality is part of attraction, part of love starts with attraction and starts with being physically attracted to somebody. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And everybody has a different type. You don't need to be everyone's type. You just want to be the right person's type. And I think that's one thing we forget is that you only need to really match with one right person. But in order to find that one right person, sometimes you need to kiss a couple frogs, as my friend Erica and I used to joke. So, on to advice specifically for guys. I went on lots of first dates this time around, and each time around, but this time especially. And I feel like the apps are definitely stacked against the guys in a little bit. Statistically, I'm sure that I'm not the only woman who literally you hop on there. If I was to activate it today, you get hundreds of likes. I don't know. And I'm not, again, I'm not a supermodel. I'm a decently good looking person. And I think I have an energy and an aliveness about me that people like, but I'm not everybody's type. I'm not a supermodel. I'm literally 5 feet tall and I'm 50. Now I'm 51. I was 49 when I was first doing this. But the reality is that guys, they may have one match all day, or I don't know how it works, but they may have none. So every single match is, oh, she matched with me. And so a lot of times I'd talk with guys who maybe I wasn't necessarily even interested in them, but we were talking and chatting about it. And I'd try to explain to them that they get all caught up on, oh, why do you even match with someone and then not respond? And I was like, you don't understand. Like, she may have matched with 50 guys, and that's not an exaggeration. She may be navigating. So you got to stand out. And you don't need to stand out by being like witty or crazy. You just stand out by connecting with her. And so you've got to ask her questions, and and they don't have to be the deepest questions either. Because frankly, sometimes when people would ask me, okay, so you're an author. What made you decide you want to be an author? What's your book about? It would be a little overwhelming. Like, I'd need a half an hour to sit down and craft a response to this guy. Whereas just connecting, just saying, hey, your eyes are pretty and your smile. And what are you doing tonight? And like just talking about what'd you do today? Like just getting into their current life. You don't need to, hear their whole backstory in the first conversation. You just need to feel their energy and get to know them. And you stand out by connecting with somebody. It always sticks with me. It's one of the things from the 7 Habits of Highly Intelligent People. I think that's the name of the book. Be interested to be interesting. And that's always stuck with me. It's like when you are interested in someone else, they find you interesting. So I would always say to be engaging, actually comment on something specific in her profile. On a lot of the apps, Hinge, for example, when you write a message rather than just liking her profile, if you say something that she feels obligated or she feels a desire to respond to, that automatically matches you. So if you comment on something specific in her profile or you give her a compliment that's specific and cute, she almost can't help but respond. Like, even if you're like not even someone she would have normally been interested in, if you say something, she's going to want to respond, and then you can match, and then you can get to know her and disarm her a little bit. So that's happened to me on more than one occasion. So if you ask a light or fun question, it doesn't have to be anything deep right away. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, witty, or intellectual. Just be interested. And starting with just, hey, is fine too, but just don't stop there. Get to know her, follow up, act interested. So that would be my first advice. And then be playful, be human. Like, women like flirting in general. At least I guess I can only speak for myself, but if she doesn't write back right away, don't get mad. Just reach back out and make a joke about it. Don't take it all so personally. It's possible that she's just busy or she's responding to 500 other messages, or she might be dealing with something with her family. She might not have even seen the message, depending on how she has her notifications set up. So it's all about the vibe. So try to let her feel your vibe. Let her get to know you and get to know her. I think I like the flirting. Like that is the best the best part of online dating is the flirting leading up to excitement about meeting in person. And I like to meet in person pretty quickly too, which is not the norm. Some women and men are like really, they have this rigid checklist. I feel like you got to go with the flow a little bit. Lead with curiosity, not a checklist. Women who are out here dating in life aren't looking for perfection either. They're looking for connection. And that starts with being yourself and actually showing interest and then following through, of course. So, what this season taught me is that number one, I'm resilient and I'm rooted. The confidence I have now comes not from youth, but from life, from healing, from hardship, from becoming. And love in midlife looks different and it's better. It's not all about butterflies and games, it's about calm, presence, and being seen for who you actually are. And I'm not for everyone, and that's a gift. I don't need to be. The goal was never to be right for everyone. The goal is to be true to yourself so that the right people recognize you. Number four, you're not too old. It's not too late. You can fall in love again. You can reinvent. You can meet someone wonderful. And you may meet someone who's a totally different type of person than you've ever been attracted to before. It might be somebody that you would have never connected with in your younger days. More importantly, though, you can meet yourself and find that you actually like who you've become. So, dating in midlife surprised me. It reminded me that I'm still growing, I'm still desirable, and I get to decide how I want love to feel in this chapter. And I've learned to be really flexible with that and to be really honest with that. So, whether you're newly single, curious about dating again, or just figuring out what you want next, know that you're not alone. It's not too late. You're not too much, and it's not over. In fact, this might just be the best chapter yet. That's my piece. I think have fun with it, just like anything in life. Don't think of it as a chore and don't focus on the struggle of it. Just have fun with it. And there's a couple of podcasts and books that are really good about this, especially Matthew Hussey. I've really enjoyed, I listened to his book on audiobook called Love Life, and then he has a podcast too. He really focuses on women and he has a nice British accent too. So anyway, there's so much more I could probably say, but that's the main thing is just breathe, have fun, go with the flow. I guess I'm babbling now. I should have just ended it when I ended it. Anyway, thanks for listening and thanks for taking your time with me. This is Piece of Work, the podcast. There's also Piece of Work, a memoir. We're all a piece of work, a work in progress, and a work of art. And you can find all this on my website, danielletantone.com. You can also find my book on Amazon. Eventually, I'm going to have it up on my website so you can purchase it from me directly. But right now, it's just through Amazon and it's available in all formats. It's in ebook, audiobook, hardcover, softcover, and I'm working on a second book. This one's about resilience. So I'm going to be talking more and more about resilience and what that means to me and how you can be more resilient in your life. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, comment, make it a what's it called? A review because this helps other people to find my podcast. And we're really just beginning. Thank you. Goodbye.